The president of this board association of academics. We have now, I think, close to 1,500 members from 100 different countries. And it's a great honor and pleasure to address the third annual International Conference on Arts and Humanities. And I think it's a cliche to say that we are living in a global world. And the good manifestation is that we have here professors and PhD students and researchers from 5 different continents and 17 countries. Percentage-wise, since the conference, all our conferences actually are small, because that's how we encourage interaction. Right away you can see the globalization of our conferences, which is a reflection, a manifestation of the fact that we are living in a global world. Now, it's too bad for you that I have to give an opening speech, because yesterday I had nothing to do, and the day before yesterday, and I tried to prepare something. Actually, I have something in writing, but I'm not going to read it. My concern is that I want to see, since this is a conference on arts and humanities, and I asked when I came in our director of arts and humanities, I'll tell you later how we are organized, maybe Professor will say more. But I was reading newspaper clips from the United States that humanities are in crisis. And actually, I printed some of them, I can show to you. But I found a lot of interest from professors, of course, and from non-academics as well, why humanities are in crisis. And I was surprised that there were some elements there. I'm an economist by trade, and I don't apologize, I'm just saying. And because, of course, you know that economics is rising as an academic discipline, and this is in contradiction with the solutions that they have to offer to the world economic problems. What is amazing is that economics as a science recognizes its limits. And not only recognize its limits, I have some nice quotes here, but they try, as a good imperialist, to grab whatever they can get from other disciplines. And I was amazed in this argument that they were not mentioning that humanities are used by other disciplines to enhance their credibility, if you want, and unfortunately this is not mentioned. I just want to tell you that one of the recent contributions from the arts and humanities is the role of culture. If you read the economics literature, you will see that because they cannot explain global differences in per capita income and wealth accumulation. They tried hard for many years to understand why the world differs. And now, in the last 10 years, there's a beautiful paper, actually a review paper, in a prestigious journal, the Journal of Economic Literature by the SINA, that review the recent literature about the role of culture and institutions in economic growth. Culture and institutions, actually, they are, I shouldn't say culture, they are defined as all these values and beliefs or informal institutions, some they call it, and it's 100% squared what arts and humanities are doing. And unfortunately, I didn't see anything in that literature in arts and humanities that says, yes, you know, that's how we can be useful. We can explain why the world differs and how this has an effect on the economy. Just, I'm gonna, very rarely I'm doing that. There was an article in the American Economic Review from 2 Yale professors in 2011, and look what they mentioned after their economy, the apparent failure of economists to see the possibility of a recent financial crisis. There are emerging signs of greater interest in a balance between specialization and knowledge of finding in other fields. And they conclude to encourage broadening perspectives which bring together various approaches to allow a more sophisticated assessment of economic problems. So one thing that arts and humanities, they can help other disciplines, that's I think a promising field, they can help other disciplines to enhance their explanation and to enhance their credibility, as I mentioned. There's another thing that is important, history and philosophy. Just to mention, I mentioned the article by Alensina and Giuliano in the Journal of Economic Literature. They conclude, while much progress has been made in isolating the importance of culture and institutions, we need to do more, and that's in their economists. We need to do more to fully understand their complementarities and how they jointly affect development. By institution and culture, right away we get into the field of history. We get into the field of anthropology. We get into the field of geography. And I thought always that these are fields of arts and humanities. And there's something else more important. For me as a Greek, humanities means economics, means social science as well. Because it belongs, I was saying to David before, that Aristotle did something very bad for the disciplines. He divided. He was the first to divide the disciplines into different fields. And this is good for pedagogical purposes, to learn better. But it's not good if they use different analytical approaches. So I think arts and humanities, they have a promising future, only if they themselves realize their potential in contributing to other fields and get rid of Aristotle's dichotomy. I'd like to thank you very much. I welcome all of you, and I give the floor to Professor Poulos, that he will be on a more down-to-earth presentation of our institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Well, I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of the Athens Institute for Education and Research, ATINER for short, to this third annual International Conference on Humanities and Arts in the Global World. I'm going to just say a few words about the Institute. ATINER was established in 1995, and its mission has been to act as a forum where academics and researchers from all over the world can come together to this historic cradle of democracy, Athens, in order to exchange ideas on their research, to interact with each other, to discuss future developments in their disciplines. ATINER, as you heard earlier, is a world association of academics and researchers, and over 95% of our members are from institutions outside Greece. And our conferences are designed in such a way as to cater mainly for foreign academics. The basic activities of ATINER include the organizing and hosting of international conferences, such as this one, the carrying out of research, and the production of various publications. And since 1995, ATINER has organized more than 400 international conferences and other events, and has published close to 200 books. ATINER has also organized numerous public speeches on topical issues and roundtable discussions. And of course, we'll be having a roundtable discussion this afternoon, and we'll be discussing some of the challenges that are facing the humanities and arts in a globalized world. The Institute is also currently involved in an ambitious project regarding the proposed establishment of an academic village. And the aim is to establish a community of research scholars and academics, and the proposed village will include a conference center, living facilities, as well as facilities for research and recreation. You'll find more information on this in your file. Now, turning to today's formal activities, you should each have a program by now. Please note, and this is important, that each presentation is limited to 15 minutes, and the chairpersons will keep time and will use 3 and 1 minute reminder cards. And I'd like to ask the chairs to adhere strictly to the time constraints, and please allow for questions and discussions after all the papers have been presented and not after each paper. The chairpersons will also fill out the report forms that they will be receiving. This is important because the final program will be based on the chairperson's reports. And should you need to make use of technical facilities in your presentation, please confirm that everything is in order before the session begins, not during the session. Olga, who's standing at the back there, from our admin staff, help you in this regard. And of course, there will also be a coffee break between sessions. You should also consult the social program, which is also in your file. The Greek night tonight, of course, is to be recommended. Apart from Greek cuisine, there'll be lots of Greek music and dancing, and of course, you'll be invited to join in as well, and to get into the Greek atmosphere. And then there is the urban walk tomorrow, followed by the cruise to selected islands and the visit to the ancient site of Delphi. A few words on publications. The Institute is involved with various publications. Firstly, there are the abstracts which are published. They have their own ISBN number and of course can be cited. And then there are the papers that are presented which are placed on the web as part of an online paper series once the editing of the papers has been attended to. They'll have their own ISSN number and can of course be cited. The purpose of this publication series is firstly to disseminate information in your paper as quickly as possible, and secondly to allow feedback in case you wish to make amendments before you submit your paper for publication in the book. And with regard to book publications, you'll receive an email soon after the conference asking you for a final draft for publication consideration and any other information that may be relevant. All papers that are submitted will go through a referee process before they are considered for publication in the book. And then finally, ATINER has its own journal series, and papers submitted for the journals go through a double-blind peer review process which is monitored by an editorial board. On the issue of collaboration, we at ATINER, of course, would like to collaborate with other institutions, and academics, researchers, and institutes are invited to collaborate with our institute on research and education projects. So if you're involved in any particular project and you would like to collaborate with us, please let us know and we'll get the ball rolling in that regard. And if you're not yet a member of the institute, we'd like you to join and to assist with the reviewing and editing of papers. And you're also encouraged to collaborate as delegates at future conferences by submitting proposals for special panel discussions. We'll be having a panel discussion tomorrow morning, so you can have a good idea of how those are organized. And academics and researchers interested in your theme will be invited to participate in the special panel discussion, and of course we'll be involved in that administrative process as well. Part of our vision is also to organize visiting fellowships, and we hope to introduce this soon. Well, finally, colleagues, as is clear from the program and as mentioned by Professor Papanikos, you've come from so many different countries, and we at ATINER sincerely hope that you'll make the most of this opportunity to interact with each other, that you'll enjoy this conference, that you'll go back home with fond memories, not only of this conference, but of Athens and of Greece, and of course we'll want to see you back at future conferences. Thank you very much for coming, and I'm going to hand over now to Dr. David Wick, who is Director of the Arts and Humanities Research Division here at ATINER. Thank you very much. And enjoy the conference.
The size of these conferences is, as Professor Papanikos and Professor Poulos has mentioned, something very deliberate. I'm an urban historian, so I connect these to things that might raise Professor Papanikos' eyebrow. But the Romans, when they designed cities for a specific size of community. 20,000 or 30 or 40, built the infrastructure, tried to design the shapes, tried to work in the cultural aspects. And the idea was that if a town, for economic reasons of success or for whatever reason, grew beyond that, not to add to the town, but to move over a little ways and build another city. To keep the size of the community something that could actually interact inside of itself, feel a sense of wholeness and identity. And this is a reason why there are not big conferences at ATINER that belong with arts and humanities. There's a history conference, a philosophy conference, and a variety of others. But the idea is to keep the conversational level something that's on a human scale. So this is very different from much larger conferences. It's with that in mind that we've asked that, getting to something practical here, that the 15-minute paper be something that you stick to, Notice the 3-minute and the 1-minute reminders. It's an excellent thing to, on your own topic, have an exit strategy when you see that 3-minute and 1-minute sign come up there, because what we're trying to do is give everybody a chance not just to present, but to be a part of the conversation. And to leave time for questions, and to put questions at the end so the questions can be a conversation. And so with that in mind, along with mentioning the things Professor Poulos mentioned, one additional request, so far as those of you gracious enough to have agreed to chair sessions can do it. If at all possible, we like to do questions at the end for all of the presenters. If you get a string of questions coming that all run to the final paper presented, which can happen, let's just say this is a human reaction, or the last two, or all along line of one, do your best if you can to try and see if early on you can collect a question for each of the presenters, and then we can roll back into a discussion on the one that perhaps people are remembering most from the end of the session. But please, conversation is as important as the presentations of the papers. Conversation outside this room when eating and in those 10-minute coffee breaks, every bit as important as the presentations. And please use the chance to talk to your colleagues to try and come up with new ideas or cross-fertilization of things to extend your own research. Conversation should be possible in a community this size. If the conference gets much bigger than this, it will become like a Roman city. It'll sprout another conference. So if we made this choice, please try and use this for the sake of creativity and fertilization of ideas. And with that, all finished, and we can